Have you guys ever struggled with your World of Warcraft gold? Me too. Today, I want to show you guys a key to afford. It's a key to afford. It's my mom's car. I never had a Ford. Anyways, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Paladins. We're going to go over Holy, Ret, and Prot Pallies. We're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses, how to play with them, how to fight against them, everything you need to know about Pallies in PvP. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Alright pals, so for the video today, like I said, we're going to go over Paladins, and fortunately, myself, I do have a Beast of a Pally, level 33. I do actually have one on Horde as well, but anyways, let's jump right into it. So, first off, we're going to go over Holy. We'll go Holy, and then Prot, and then Ret, and yeah, let's just start with general game knowledge, knowing to go against the Pally. So, in general, Holy Pallies, as kill targets in Arena, for a lot of classes, they are very tanky. These are a very hard kill target in the current meta. They have a lot of big defensive cooldowns. They wear plate, they have a high armor value, and they have just very strong instant healing in general. They don't tend to go they have really good mana regen. On top of all of this, one of their main spells that they use to heal is actually a spell called Word of Glory. This spell consumes holy power and doesn't even cost mana. So yeah, you're going to have a really hard time fighting Holy Pallies. They are by far the strongest healer in all of Shadowlands, and this is probably why you've been struggling with them, if you have been. Anyways, let's talk about cooldowns. So in general, Pallies have a couple big immunities and important cooldowns that you need to pay attention to. So on top of their trinket, they will usually run a Battlemaster trinket, which I have a Cataclysmic version of here, but this is basically a PvP trinket that will increase your health. So a very common, combo that Holy Pallies will use is they'll actually use their wall here to reduce damage taken by 20%, stack that with their Battlemaster, and, they'll have a fat extra chunk of health, and they will have a damage reduction. This alone makes Pallies very hard to kill, let alone any of the other things. So on top of these things, there are a couple others that we should talk about, and that is Bubble. I'm pretty sure every World of Warcraft player knows what Pally's Bubble is, but there is something that a lot of players actually might not know. So when a Pally casts Bubble, or Blessing of Protection, which is the physical only bubble, they get a debuff called Forbearance. So what this debuff does is it makes it for 30 seconds, they basically cannot use a couple spells on themselves. These are Lay on Hands, which doesn't matter in Arena, but it's basically they can't use Bop on themselves, which is Blessing of Protection or Divine Shield. So if you ever see a Holy Pally that uses Blessing of Protection, you can safely know for 30 seconds at least they can't use their bubble and they cannot use another bop. A really good way to know if a Holy Pally is good to be a kill target is if they have recently used Bop or Bubble, they have the Forbearance debuff and they have no trinket. This means if you catch them in a full stun, they're pretty toast. They don't really have a way to get out of it or escape. They can wall through stuns, but obviously they can't use their Battlemaster trinket, and that's the most popular way to actually take down a Holy Pally. In terms of other more minor cooldowns we can look at, they have this one, which is called Divine Favor. This basically gives the Pally a buff that makes their next heal unkickable. I believe it's Holy Light or Flash of Light, so whenever they cast this, they will get a big flashlight off. One thing really important to note, this can be purged and or spell stolen. And if the Pally puts up this, kick immunity, Divine Favor, and they are casting, if you spell steal or purge, the spell becomes interruptible. So if you're a mage playing against this, you could spell steal and counterspell at the same time. You can lock at a Holy Pally, make them very vulnerable to kill. Or if you're playing like Shadow Priest Rogue, your Shadow Priest can purge and then the Rogue can kick. You guys can work to synergize together to deal with this cooldown. Probably the last most important Holy Pally cooldown that I'm going to cover that's really important to know is actually a spell called Blessing of Sacrifice. So a lot of people don't actually know how this spell works, so I think this is a good time for me to explain. Basically, this is a buff that a Pally can put onto an ally teammate, and what it will do is it will redirect a portion of the damage they take to the Paladin. If you take a PvP talent, that's called Ultimate Sacrifice, I believe it's down here. What it does is it turns that portion into 100%. So if a Holy Paladin uses Blessing of Sacrifice, for the next, I believe it's like 12 seconds or so, for the next 12 seconds, 100% of the damage that a target will take that they use on will be redirected kind of in like the form of a dot to the Pally. So if you see a target gets Blessing of Sacrifice on them, they are not going to die. You either can swap, attack somebody else, attack the Paladin, or kind of reset. Also, something to note with this is if a Pally uses Blessing of Sacrifice on let's say there's a warrior and a Pally, if the Pally uses Sacrifice on the warrior and people are doing DPS to the warrior, this damage is going to break CC on the Pally. So let's say, for example, the Pally gets sheeped, he has a Blessing of Sacrifice on the warrior, and the warrior takes damage. That Blessing of Sacrifice damage will actually break the polymorph. So it is also very important to not CC Holy Pallies with anything other than like stuns, because CC will break from sacrifice damage. In terms of defensives and generals, that kind of covers it. I guess we could jump into offensive things you need to be aware of fighting against a Holy Pally. Honestly, right now in Shadowlands, Holy Pallies can do some really, really crazy burst and damage, so that's always something to just keep in mind. But actual CC tools they have. So this is their CC tier down here, and it's basically between a shorter Hand of Justice cooldown, which is their Hammer of Justice, not Hand of Justice. This is their 6-second stun. If they go this talent, they get it on a shorter cooldown through spending Holy Pallor. They could spec into Repentance, which is basically a polymorph that they can cast. This is on a 15-second cooldown. Or they can go Blinding Light. And this is basically this spell right here, which is like an AoE, not that one. This right here, which is an AoE blind and will blind everyone around them. These are very important to know what you're fighting against. You know, if you're fighting against a Pally that's playing Repentance, you can literally just lock out Repentance. You can kick it, you can pummel it, counterspell. You could prevent this from happening to your healer. As for Hodge itself and Blinding Light, the only way to really prevent this is from CCing a Pally running after your healer or running over to CC you. You can try to prevent them from positionally getting to them. But these are both instant cast. I think in general, without going too in depth, that kind of covers up the most important things about Holy Pally. So let's jump on over and look at Prot now. Okay, so now looking at Prot, first I just want to say, most of the spells between Holy, Prot, and Ret are similar. Ret and Prot have a couple extra ones, but yeah, they might be a little bit different. So the first thing I want to point out is for Prot and Ret Paladins, you'll notice in the PvP talents, they actually don't have the Ultimate Sacrifice PvP talent, which means that yes, they do have the spell Blessing of Sacrifice, which does the same thing, but they do not have the ability to make it 100% of the damage transferable, which means you can still kill a target that has Blessing of Sacrifice up on them if it's from a Prot or a Ret. They will still take a large amount of reduced damage, it will still break CC, but it is possible to kill through. Now, in terms of other Prot spells that are very annoying, this one is one that frustrates me very much, but they actually have a PvP talent called Steed of Glory, and what this does is it basically makes their mount form, so this thing, their Cavalier, Divine Steed, whatever you call it, where you mount up on a horse. It makes it so it lasts a bit longer, and it makes you actually immune to CC the whole duration that this is up, and you'll actually have a knockback effect, like as if you're running people over on your mount. Very, very frustrating to play against. So if you're playing a Prot Pally and they're on their mount ripping around, just remember they will knock you up in the air, and they are immune to CC during this if they take this PvP talent. Another PvP talent that really confuses a lot of players is this one, the Guardian of the Forgotten Queen, and this is basically the big spirit guardian thing that Prot Pallies will pull down that's kind of channeling this immunity into a player. This actually, surprisingly, is very easy to deal with. If you use any disorient or stun on this target, you know, you can fear it, you can Dragon's Breath it, you can cheap shot, stun, bash, any type of little stun or disorient, you can deal with this thing right away. I don't believe it could be polymorphed. I'm not 100% sure, but it absolutely can be stunned and disoriented, and that will stop this from giving immunity. Another spell I want to talk about for Prot is a spell, which is a talent that some Prot Pallies take, and it's right here. It's basically Blessing of Spell Warding. So what this will do is will actually replace their bop, and it will give them a magical bop. So if you don't know, Blessing of Protection is kind of like a Pally's bubble that they can give to anybody, but it only works for physical damage. Prot Pallies can actually talent into the Spell Warding one, and it basically is the exact same thing, except it becomes a magical bop instead, meaning that no spell damage can go through, they're completely immune. This one is not spell stealable or purgeable, whereas Blessing of Protection is. In terms of things that are important to mention, Prot Pallies are tanks, and tanks currently in PvP, I believe, take 50% increased damage. So even though, they will be beefy, they will be tanky and have a lot of health, they will take a lot more burst. Obviously, right now, the game is in a very weird state where people are playing prop Pallies in, AWC tournament, replacing healers altogether. This is because of the spell Word of Glory that I talked about recently, and the amount of healing that you can do with this spell is really, really, really high, especially for prot. So if you're playing against a prot pally, expect them to have a lot of heals. You're going to need to lock them down in stuns and burst them really hard, or try to CC them and probably kill somebody else in the comp. Other than that, most things are very similar to Holy, but those are the main things that stand out. So let's move over to Ret. Okay, so last up, we are talking about Ret, guys. Once again, very standard spells. We have the Divine Shield, giving the Forbearance. This is between Bop and Bubble, as we talked about before. But now let's talk about an extra defensive cooldown that Ret Pallies have, and this is actually Shield of Vengeance. So if you've ever seen a Pally do this animation, and you're wondering what the heck is that, that's not the bubble. This is basically what I like to call a Pally's mini bubble. It gives them a pretty large shield, and when the shield is actually destroyed or ends, it will actually do an explosion, which will do a lot of damage in an AoE. So it's very important, if you're low health or if the enemy team is bursting on you, to kind of not fight back into this. It's kind of like a Druid's Thorns. This will explode very hard on you, but also this will make them survive much longer. And just like Prot, Word of Glory healing, Rets have a lot of healing. One thing to keep in mind is that if you apply a lot of pressure to a Ret and they're forced to use their Holy Pally if they're forced to use their Holy Power to heal, it is going to reduce their damage. They won't be able to get as many Templar's Verdicts out, all these other kind of spells. In terms of CC, we have the Hodge once again, and we have a similar middle tier here, Blinding Light, Rep, and Fist of Justice, same as Holy. So yeah, nothing new there. Very, very general stuff. So for Ret Pally specifically, they also have a PvP talent, which is called Blessing of Sanctuary. And this is a really important one to know when you're fighting against a Ret Pally. So what this will do is it will basically instantly remove a stun or silence off of one of their allies. It's also fear and horror effects, but usually it'll be used for stuns. And also a Pally can kind of pre-sank and will actually reduce the duration of future effects by 60%. So this lasts for 5 seconds, and it's something you really need to keep in mind. So if you're fighting against a comp like, Ret Pally, Warrior, Healer, this is really important. If you want to kill the warrior with something where you're going to stun, you need to make sure that you have something to cover the paladin by CCing him first before you stun the warrior, or else he's literally just going to use this PvP talent, and he'll basically wipe the stun off his warrior, and you'll have a really hard time landing a kill. Like I mentioned before, Blessing of Sacrifice, same thing. No ultimate sacrifice here. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. In terms of offensive cooldowns, things you want to know about, Ret Pallies actually have a spell called Hand of Hindrance. This is a super, super slow effect. For 10 seconds, you'll have 70% reduced move speed. It doesn't work on that target, but that is something that you need to keep in mind. They could slow you very hard. All Pally specs have Hand of Freedom. This is spell stealable, but basically it makes them immune to being rooted or slowed. Yeah, in general, Ret's pretty simple. If you see a Ret Pally pop their wings and they go red, and they do their crazy animations where they're about to do a lot of damage, make sure you respond. Ret Pallies are in a situation right now where basically if you're not going to respond to their cooldowns, they can do 20 to 30,000 damage within 1 to 2 globals and do really crazy amounts of burst. So yeah, I would definitely make sure you're ready to react to a Ret Pally when you see their wings go up. Anyways, pals, I hope this video could kind of clear things up for you. I try to kind of do this in one take, kind of just roughly walk over. I didn't want to fill up the video with too much useless information. I want it to be really focused on the important things about Paladins. I get asked this question a lot on my live stream, twitch.tv/ipalamore, by the way. But I get this question asked a lot. What do I do against Paladins? How do I beat Paladins? I'm having a lot of trouble with Paladins in 2s and 3s, Holy, Ret, Prot, So I really hope understanding and learning their cooldowns will help you play around them better and understand how to trade your cooldowns with theirs. Yeah, I guess all I can really say is best of luck in the future, and I hope this video helped you. If it did, let me know in the comments down below, guys. It would mean the world to me. And if you enjoyed the video, throw a like on it. If you enjoy my channel, throw a subscription. And without further ado, wait, that's the intro thing. Shit, I messed up. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.